It's time for Fishing with Son of a Hillbilly featuring Scott Jackson. Get your rods and your reels out as we're going fishing. Them catfish, crappies, and them dang sunfish ain't gonna catch themselves. On this podcast, you will receive the latest gear reviews, interviews with other anglers, great fishing techniques, and much more. Well, what do you know? It's time for a show. Here's Scott Jackson.
Okay, folks, this is Scott, son of a hillbilly here, and today we have a wonderful guest. His name is Tony Cruze. And Tony, what city are you out of?
We're out of Wilmer, Minnesota.
Wilmer, Minnesota. And today, Tony's going to talk about all of his fishing adventures and a great product that he's come up with. And why don't I let Tony talk a little bit here about his history and some of the fishing he does.
Well, most of my fishing started when I was a real young child. We come from a family of 10 kids, so fishing equipment really wasn't a part of our necessity. So we improvised. We kind of adapted and overcame that. We would seine minnows from a river, then we would take them down to another bigger river, and there we would use them to fish. We used fishing line that other people had discarded. We used their fishing tackle that was hung up in a tree, and we would go retrieve it. We would take use a stick to stir the paint.
Right.
Well, we would take that old line and wrap it around there, and that's what was our fishing pole. So we'd go out and we would throw the lure out in the water and then try to run up the banks. And sometimes the banks were really, really steep, so it made it kind of difficult, but that's how we fished. Now, that's summertime fishing. In the wintertime fishing, that was a whole different ballgame. We actually did have one of the old fishing poles that you stuck in the ice, and then you just pulled the fish up as you went along, and that seemed to work pretty good. Our fish house consisted of our Chevy station wagon, and if there was just a few of us to go fishing that day, Dad would turn the heater on in the car, and then we would have our holes drilled right outside the Chevy wagon, and that's how we fished. I mean, that was our fish house. But mostly it was on pails and things like that. And back in the 60s and 70s, I never heard of glow jigs. In fact, I didn't hear of glow jigs till several years ago when a friend of mine had introduced them to me. I saw them work once, and I was absolutely hooked on glow jigs. I know some don't use them today, but there are so many different kinds of glow jigs out there, and they really all do work well. I have a few of my favorites, but they all really work well. And so when we were use them, we used a Coleman lantern, and we would take for instance, this is one of my favorite jigs. But we would take the glow lure and put it up toward the lantern. Well, there were times when the fish were biting and it got a little excited. So a combination of excitement and also an attempt to make sure that the glow lure gets lit well, you'd want to get it closer to the lantern. Unfortunately, there's a metal shroud that comes out over that, and if you get that too close, you burn your line. And,
oh, boy.
Yeah, and I had experienced that 3 times in one night. I didn't bring home one fish that night. Everybody else brought home, but myself. So we moved from there to a couple other different devices. We used LED, which you can use to paint on. Those LEDs were 28 lumens. They worked. That's what we had. And so that's what I used. My brother came over and he showed me, he's a photographer, so he showed me the flash, introduced the camera flash to me. Well, he flashed it 2 or 3 times on each one of these, like on this one, at least one on each side, and then one more for good measure. And I thought, that's blazing. That is just awesome. And so we started using that. The only problem that I had with it was that that flash was, untamed. I mean, it went all over everywhere inside we had a little shanty going. So it was constantly using that thing to light up our lures, and it was distracting. It was a bit annoying. But once again, that's what we had, and that's what worked. Well, eventually, I got kind of tired of that, and I thought to myself, why are we wasting all that energy? Why are we wasting the time? And why am I getting blinded by this? So I went home and was talking to my oldest son, Derek, and I said, this is what I want. I want this lure, well, not particularly this one at the time, but I want the lure to go into a box. I want it to be concealed so that I'm not being blinded by it. I want it to be reflective all the way around, top and bottom, so that it bathes that thing in light, and I want it to happen that fast. So we set out at our kitchen table, cutting boards, cutting glass. We cut tin foil, aluminum foil, whatever we could to encase this box with reflective material. And it worked. We had a camera flash stuck in the bottom of it, and it was extremely bulky, but it worked. So one step led to another. A friend of my son's is into electronics, so we asked him to build us a board that would fit this box, and he did. We took it all over to an attorney, a patent attorney, and they did the work on it, and they said, yeah, you got yourself a patent. So we got it patented, and here we are today.
Fabulous. That sounds like a pretty good one. I was really impressed when I saw you at the show and you demonstrated that to me. So basically what you're doing is you're with your new device is you're taking that lure and putting it down into your lightning box. And it's just a simple thing of just pressing a button, right? And it charges up your lures?
Yeah, I'll show you quick how it works. And then I'll a little later on maybe we can do a demonstration where it's a little bit slower, but it does have an off switch, so you turn it on. Can you see, Scott? Can you see that button? Does it look?
Yes, I can see it. Sure.
So this just goes in there. There's a slit right here. That slit's going to ensure that that's in the center. I'm going to hit this, and then I would just drop it down the hole.
That's pretty simple. That's a lot better than putting it in front of a lantern and burning your line in half and being frustrated, spending all your night re-rigging rigs.
Yeah, I honestly, I still use it. I still love the idea. So I think, well, if I don't get bored of it after these many years, then it's probably still a good product. I don't know if your viewers can see it, but it's kind of a Mylar that's in here. That's on the top of this lid. And then also, if you look down into it, there's reflective material all the way around. And I think, Scott, did you look in the bottom of this when you were there? Did you see where the bulb is?
Yes, I did.
All right. That's a 164 lumen bulb. And when you close this lid and you push this button, that's all the longer it takes. It works on all our lures. I use, well, obviously anything that's probably 3 inches is not going to fit in there, but small jigs for ice fishing or summer fishing will fit right in here. One of the questions I get asked is it done now? I say, yeah, the only thing you're doing is wasting time. You need to pull it out of there and put it in the ice where it belongs, because that's where the fish are. Well, that's what started this whole thing, because I could not get the lure back down to where the fish were quick enough without, well, as you heard, burning it or wasting just a lot of time. I should point out too, another advantage of it is speed is the greatest thing,
Right.
to me. But a lot of people who fish and have devices that help illuminate, and there are a lot out there, will note that there's just one AA battery. I've sat home here and I have activated one battery 400 to 500 times, and I had more. One of the key things that we have to remember is to turn it off.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
also remember there's still one in here, because it does not take very long to charge that. I'll turn it back on and I'll show you. It's on now. It's ready to go. And now it's ready to go again. And now
That's pretty fast.
And now it's ready to go again.
Wow, it doesn't take long for it to recharge back up and get back into a usable state, does it? Just
No.
So if you have multiple fishermen using that thing, you're not going to have to sit there and wait for it to build up like the old flashes used to be.
This is our generation 2. Our generation 1 was probably 3 times as long to recharge.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the things that we redid. If you viewers out there remember the lightning boxes, they still have one. I still have one, and I still use it. I use the old one. But it had a toggle switch on the front with a light and then an activation switch there. We moved it all to the side, which makes it really easy when you hold the box. So when you're holding it, you can just assist the lid up, with your thumb, just touching it down, bringing it to the center once again, pressing it, lifting it up, dropping it down the hole. That is pretty simple.
Yeah, it is. I like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment. This is a Frosty spoon, and it is one of my favorite. I will say this, in all fairness, whatever lure you put in there, and this is the only one I found with the exception, when you put it in there and you push that button, you're wasting time right now. It should be in the water.
Okay.
The blue, this deep blue, for some reason, I don't know why, but I take and I will light it up about 3 times, which the first 3 times I do that.
Okay.
And then it really holds that glow. So 15, 20 minutes later, when you bring it back up, it is just the one time, and then you're fishing again.
So basically, you with that particular color or that particular lure, you charge it up the first time, and it's just a little bit of a retouch each time when you bring it up.
Right. And for the rest of them, it is just one time. You just put it in there, hit it, and send it down. Most guys, they will just put it in there, and they're going to hit it once. And since it doesn't take any time, they'll do it twice. Some probably even 3. But on most of the other ones, you're really wasting your time.
Sure.
But if that's how you want to operate it, we have no problem with that.
Well, yeah, I'm sure some people think, if one's good, I'll put 2 or 3 more into it and drop it down in the water. It's only a few seconds because your device charges up so quickly. They don't want to sit around and wait for it to recharge back up. Thus, they're losing the charge time they had on that lure. So It's just a simple boom, boom, boom type of thing. That's pretty nice. And I like the design of the box. There's nothing sticking out. Like you said, you had a toggle switch on it before.
Yep.
I could see shoving that into a tackle box, closing a lid or doing something, that toggle switch getting knocked off. This is much more convenient. And that would fit a lot better. That'd fit into my pocket, too.
Yeah.
If I had it in a pocket or something like that in my coat.
It just fits in there quite simple. What I also do, quite simple, what I also do is I'll take a few of my favorite lures and put them in the box to make sure that I've got them when I go out there. So you can bet if this isn't on my line right now, this is going to be sitting in that box when I go out and I open it up. I'll dump them out and then I start using them. But I want to make sure that I've got 2 or 3 of my favorites in the box, so I'm not fishing for them. I do want to say one thing in regards to the Coleman, the lantern. I don't think it was designed to do what I was asking it to do. So
right.
I like Coleman products, absolutely. We used a lot of Coleman products in the day. So nothing against Coleman. It's just that.
Well, no, of course not. Yeah, I didn't take that from what you're saying. Coleman products are fabulous products. I use them myself, and I'll continue using them. But it wasn't designed to charge fishing lures. It was designed so you can see what the heck you're doing out there and not trip and fall into the lake or something, you know. But, you know, coming up with that design is so much easier, you know, than trying to put it up there. You know, the Coleman products put out a lot of heat, and that's just part of the thing. There's no heat. You don't have to worry about burning anything, setting anything on fire. You don't have to worry about electrocution. It's just a little battery and stuff. So, and you don't have to worry about carrying big, heavy lights or flashing stuff to scare the fish away. That's all self-contained. So if you're in a dark, say you're fishing at night, I'll use that for example. I'm sure that'd be really good for night fishing too. Charge up those lures, and if it wasn't, if it was a big light you had out there, because there's been many times I fished out at night and I don't have any light except for like a little red light, so I can barely see what I'm doing because I don't want to scare the fish in some of the shallow, clear waters I'm in. And you're sitting there flashing lures with a big flashlight or some other device. That thing would be a lot easier to do that with than that. The glowing lure would be out there in the water and do well. Excellent.
There are one of the other advantages is, and we put this in there kind of for me, it's a lanyard. So there's a hole in the bottom, and I don't know if your viewers can see it, but if you look at the front, you see the logo lightning box, and at the very bottom, there's a hole. Well, that's for a lanyard, so strictly for me, because I drop things.
Sure, okay. Just put it around your neck and stuff, so you don't have to worry about dropping it down the ice hole and seeing it go down to the bottom of the lake. All right, that works. Some
of the people that have come back for Generation 2 had mentioned that they use that. So we were kind of encouraged to keep using it, and I didn't want to take that off of there. The other thing is the light, and so if you forget to turn that off, this will drain that battery. So we encourage people to turn that off when they're not using it. And remember, there is still one left in there.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's basically charging a capacitor or something in there that lets it go off.
And that's the thing. So that's exactly why we tell them turn it off if you're not using it. If you're going to be going to another part of the lake and say you're going to re-drill holes, now you're not going to be able to put everything in your sled and go over there in 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to take you a half an hour. Well, there's no real need to have that on for half an hour or maybe even 45 minutes to turn it off. A lot of people ask me, how long does it stay lit? Mm-hmm. And the answer is it depends on the lure. A lot of people get that. A lot of guys and gals that fish, they understand that. But not everybody. So just to put that out there, this will give this lure the very best it can glow, and it does it in one shot as well. Like I said, except for this blue one. So about an average of 15 or 20 minutes, I generally pull my lure up to just check the bait, or like last night we let it go a little bit too long, and they got our minnow, we were using minnow, we were using waxies. Little buggers, they got it off of there before we could get them up. So I check it. The lure was still lit, but the bait was gone, and that's 20 minutes. And I'm one who likes to check that bait every 15 or 20 minutes anyway. And here's the beautiful part: you don't have to go through all the rituals. You don't have to flash anybody. You just stick it back in there, snap it, and put it back down in the water. So when the bite is on and you're pulling your walleyes up or your perch or whatever you're catching, you throw them in the pail. You don't have to worry about, well, am I going to spend time up here, but I don't really want to send it down without it being fully charged. Not a big deal. Put it in there, snap it, send it back down.
Okay. So you usually tip those lures with a little bit of live bait, or you can use them without, or is that your main technique?
Well, I like wax worms. I like fatheads, crappie minnows. You tip them with the head of the minnow or the whole minnow. The whole minnow was, it was 3-4 nights ago, I was using it was a really large, like a fathead. And I used the whole thing, and I was using this, so I dump it right in here. I put the whole thing right in there and then activate it and send it back down. So,
complete with the fat head on there and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So you don't have to worry so much about, if the lure or the bait that you're putting there is really soaking wet, you don't have to worry so much about moisture getting down there too much then, right?
Yeah, no, you shouldn't have to worry about that at all. I was going to say that we redesigned this one. You'd have to have an old one to look at the new one and to understand what I'm saying, but the whole bottom is just an opaque piece of material, so that if there is a fat head that's in there and it's laying down, and it actually is somewhat covering or a little bit covering the bulb itself, it won't make any difference, because when that goes off, it goes off everywhere, all the way around it. So that's why we did that change.
Okay. Good idea. Great idea. So there, when you're using that thing, you said you went fishing the other night. How well did you do with it?
Well, we had there was 2 of us, so we had 4 lines down, and actually 3 lines down. I'm sorry, and I don't know what we got on there, but we ended up with a mess. We were close, so it took off and grabbed a couple of their lines with it. So we were pulling it up, it took off. The bottom line is we only took on 1 walleye, but it was a 16.5-inch walleye, so a pound or 2. But it was fun. And I haven't eaten it yet, but I'm going to.
It sounds like a good meal to me, for sure. Wow. Well, that's great, Tony. I'm sure a lot of people will increase their catches, and because they're getting their lure in the water a lot more time in the water than spent, getting the lures charged and everything else. So I could see tons and tons of uses for that, in order to get it, more fishing time, because you're not going to catch fish hanging your lure in the air or getting it charged up. It's got to be down in the water to get those fish.
Yep.
So I can definitely see a lot of benefit to that.
My son-in-law is talking me into going get some channel cat, so we're looking for some of those, a little bit of time to get out and try to do that. So he says the glow jigs work well for the cat, so we're going to try that.
Well, I would think so. I would imagine it worked well for any species out there. It doesn't make any difference. I'm sure it would work good for saltwater fish, too. I've fished in Georgia and a lot of the brackish waters. That water is really dingy, and you have to use a really flashy lure and stuff to get something to happen, especially sea trout and flounder and things like that. And something like this would be really handy to those saltwater fishermen if they're using the right kind of glow jigs out there. They just dip it in there, give it a charge, and fish away. It'd be interesting if you had a pouch or something where they can just keep it in their side. I know you got the lanyard thing that hangs around your neck, but you could also probably hang that off of your hip too, as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did, down at the show that you were at, I did run into a gentleman who does a lot of trout fishing, and this is what he uses. He uses glow jigs, and in the springtime, he lights them up, but he didn't have any other way to light them up, so he saw this and grabbed this. So we'll see how he does.
I'm sure if more saltwater fishermen knew about your lightning box, they would definitely pick it up.
Oh,
because that would be a really handy thing for the saltwater fishing. Because if you've done any saltwater fishing, there's some areas of the ocean that are really pristine, crystal clear, but not down there in the Georgia area. It's always dingy and always muddy looking, especially when there's a lot of churning waves and stuff, and the brackish rivers are really, really just, you can't see anything. It just looks like a brown river because they're stained with leaves, the tannin leaves down there. All the leaves get down in there. It makes a tea, basically.
Oh.
And I've actually dived in those areas trying to find shark's teeth, and you could only see a couple of inches in front of you, and I could see where this would be really handy for catching all kinds of fish. I mean, the fish would see that thing glowing in the dark and would really go for it. So, all those saltwater fishermen should definitely listen to this and, pick up on these lightning boxes. So how do they get a hold of you, Tony, in order to find out about the lightning box?
Well, we're in a few stores. I don't know if we're allowed to mention them, but is that
sure, of course.
Well, Runnings, we're in Runnings, but that's in the upper Midwest. Our website is www.fishingjustgotbetter, and we do mail them out. They're $24.99 plus shipping for one of these. There are times when we do have run promotions where there's free shipping. However, somebody from down in that part of the world sends us a request, we'll send them a free battery as well. I did have one question for you though.
Sure.
You were diving for shark's teeth.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did the shark teeth get there?
Well, it was the Ogeechee River, and the Ogeechee River was known for having those large prehistoric sharks that would come up and down through that river. And when the sharks died, all the cartilage would fade away, but the teeth weren't cartilage. So they would get buried into the bottom of the river itself. And you literally had to go diving down there. I never found any because I never had that luck, but there were a lot of other divers that I were with that would find them. And you would have to go down and start feeling the bottom. Okay? So you can't see what you're grabbing in the bottom. So it's almost like noodling for catfish in some way, but you're noodling for something. And I think I'd get something, it'd be a turtle shell, or I'd grab something and who knows what in the heck it was, glass, other stuff would be down there. But those shark's teeth would be, anywhere from, 3 to, 6 to 8 inches in size. So there's some really large teeth they had down there. And I forget what type of shark it was that they had, megalodon or something like that is what they were trying to tell me. But people would dive that river up and down. And another thing that I was concerned about were all the alligators I would see swimming up and down the river. There's been many times I would come up and I'd be like 10 feet from a gator. I'm like, I think I'm in the wrong spot. I need to move out real quick. But that's what they would do. They would actually feel the bottom of the rivers trying to find these shark's teeth. And even with a light, it's like trying to shine a light through something that is really cloudy. You can only see a little bit. The light can only go so far. And I could never see my hand when I had my arm totally extended out. Never could. And it was a nice place also to find old fishing lures down there. Every once in a while you'd find a tree sunk underneath there and clean up on lures, but never did find any shark's teeth.
All right. Well, I was just wondering, if they had shark teeth there, that means there were sharks there, but they're not there anymore.
There's still sharks in that river. Yes, there are.
All right.
I've caught many sand sharks in those areas. I've never caught any big sharks. I've hooked into some big fish. I never knew what they were because I didn't have the gear at the time to pull them in. And they would strip my line out no matter what I could do. I couldn't turn them. So I know there's some big sharks that would come up. You got to think about it. It's tidal right off the edge of the ocean.
Yeah.
Stuff's going to come in there. And usually they don't mess with you. I was more concerned over alligators than I was sharks.
Neither one of them sound appealing to me. I don't think I want to meet either one of them. I'll stay safe. I'll stay on top of the ice.
That's a smart thing. That's the way I think. Now, I was young. I was in the Army, and, when you're in the Army, you kind of think you're invincible anyway. Oh. So you would do that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I forgot to mention we also are on Facebook. So if you want to find us on Facebook, that's great. I think we're at 10,000 strong, or Fishing Just Got Better. But, I really do appreciate this, and hope your viewers glean something from it. And in parting, I just thank you for your service in the military. I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Okay, folks. So stop in and see Tony's website. That's www.fishingjustgotbetter.com, and he has all of his contact information on that website. or you can go to the Facebook. He said 10,000 strong, or fishing just got better on Facebook, and drop Tony a line. I'm sure, any of you guys out there, if you're freshwater fishermen, saltwater fishermen, whoever, pick up one of these lightning boxes and pick up some high quality. Like I tell people, if you're buying lures, why not buy the best you can get? Get high quality stuff. There's a lot of cheap junk out there. Get some good high quality glow in the dark lures, combine it with that high quality box, and you're going to be catching fish left and right. There's no doubt in my mind. And I really appreciate Tony for his time today. And showing us all about his great invention. And I wish him good luck with lots of sales and catching lots of fish.
Thank you again, Scott. I believe our lightning box is LIGHTNING box.
Okay. LIGHTNING box. Okay, lightning box.
For Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook. Sounds perfect. All right. Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Have a good one now.
Thank you.